Let me give you a few interesting stats on your heart. Did you know that your heart beats 100,000 times per day? Your kitchen faucet would need to pour water for 45 years straight to equal how much blood the human heart pumps in a lifetime. A woman's heart generally beats faster than a man's. The heart is responsible for supplying blood to almost all of the body's 75 trillion cells. So basically, your heart is a big deal. Now, when we use the word heart, sometimes we're talking about our physical heart, but at other times, we're talking about something that's not physical at all. Think about these phrases: broken heart, heartache, follow your heart on your sleeve, put your heart into something, pour your heart out, lose heart, your heart is in the right place, the bottom of your heart. If someone says your heart is in the right place, they're probably not referring to the actual location of your cardiac muscle, are they? No, they're referring to something different, something much harder to explain, something emotional, relational, and even spiritual. And this isn't just a feminine thing. Coaches often tell football players to play with all your heart. Guys often look at other guys who give 110% effort and say, he puts his heart into whatever he does. The heart, in this sense, may be hard to define, but we all get it. One thing we don't naturally understand is how to take care of our hearts. Again, I'm not talking about our physical hearts. A Google search and a yearly physical can help us take care of that. I'm talking about that other heart that represents so much of who we are outside of the physical. You don't find people at work saying, yeah, I just need to focus on my heart right now. You'll hear moms talking about their kids' grades, attitude, and behavior, but you don't hear many moms say, I'm really concerned about my kids' hearts right now. It's an area we're really trying to hone in on. But I'm guessing most of us know what it feels like for our heart to not be in such good condition. For the sake of today's conversation, think about your heart like a car battery. Specifically, think about your car battery when it runs out of juice. When's the last time the battery went dead in your car? Whenever it was and wherever you were, it was inconvenient. No one's car battery goes dead on a mild fall Saturday when the weather's perfect, the kids have nowhere to be, and you have several hours, which weren't previously committed to anything, to calmly and optimistically handle this minor inconvenience. Yeah, right. Car batteries only seem to go dead on cold and rainy days. On days when your kids desperately need to be dropped off or picked up. On days when your spouse is 45 minutes away at work or at a vital doctor's appointment. And most of the time, it isn't because there's anything particularly wrong with the car. It isn't a loose cable or broken connector. That happens sometimes, but most of the time, if your car battery's dead, it's because of what? Because you left the headlights on. You were busy, you weren't paying attention, and something you simply missed became a problem that wasn't so simply fixed. We've all been there. In the same way, is it possible that our hearts can run out of power if we don't pay attention to them? If we don't take care of them? If we only think about taking care of others and not ourselves? Author Gary Smalley, in his book, The DNA of Relationships, says, if you get so busy caring for others that you forget to connect regularly to the power and wisdom of heaven, you soon become a dead battery. When we live fast-paced, stressed-out lives, we live on adrenaline. Picture our lives as a balloon. Every time we get stressed, have to be somewhere, or remember something we have to do, we're blowing up the balloon. When we don't take breaks to calm down or to slow down, it's like never letting the air out of that balloon. So at night, it takes hours to really relax. When you let go of a balloon that has been filled with air, it circles the room until it eases to the ground. You aren't made to live like this. Adrenaline is meant to help us survive in an emergency, not become a way of life. Living on perpetual overdrive ages us and makes all the systems and organs of our bodies work harder than they need to. It's not healthy, joyful, or a loving way to live. But let's face it, most of us live this way. Busy is a normal part of our world. In fact, in some ways, our culture celebrates it. How many times have we looked at the person who's super busy, the one who works long hours to succeed, or the one who's always off to another activity, and felt envious, maybe even guilty, that we weren't doing as much as they were? And while I'm not saying busy is bad or that working hard is wrong, we all know what it feels like to be stretched so thin, to be so tired for so long, that it makes you wonder if this is really what life is supposed to be like. Could it be that we're not setting ourselves up for the win? Could it be that we're missing a vital part of life that could make our days so much richer and fuller? The book of Proverbs has some great insight on taking care of our hearts. King Solomon wrote most of the book of Proverbs, which is often framed as if a father is talking to his son. In fact, many believe Solomon was literally writing to his son. And I bet that Solomon wanted to set his son up for the win. So this isn't neutral advice like mind your manners or don't forget to brush your teeth. This is emotional, heartfelt insight from a father who loves his son dearly and wants the best for him. With that in mind, let's look at what Solomon says. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The word Solomon uses for heart is the inner part of you, your conscience, the part of you responsible for your emotions and desires. And Solomon says this part of us is the source of our lives. Our heart is responsible for the decisions we make, the ways we behave, and the people we are in the process of becoming. And what does Solomon say to do? According to him, one of the best ways to set yourself up for the win is to guard your heart. One definition of guard is to watch over in order to protect. In other words, Solomon is saying the source of your life, your conscience, the place where your emotions and strength and vision and inspiration come from, is a place that needs to be watched over. Think of it this way. When you have a natural spring, the water flows from deep underground, accumulating in pools or running off into creeks and streams. If you plug the spring, you stop the flow of water. If you poison the water, the flow becomes toxic. If you plug the spring or poison the water, you threaten life downstream. In the same way, if your heart is unhealthy, it impacts everything else in your life. It threatens your family, your friends, your ministry, your career, and your legacy. That's why it's so important that you guard it. On the other hand, if you take great care of your heart, it allows you to approach everything in your life with peace, joy, health, and power. Think of it this way. Everything gets its start from your heart. Here are some things I've learned about guarding my own heart. Guarding my heart isn't the same as shutting down my heart. It doesn't mean protecting my heart from feeling. It means as I engage in life and with people, I do feel, but I bring those feelings to God and trust Him to take care of my heart. Guarding my heart means staying vulnerable to God even when He allows things that I don't understand. I used to avoid emotionally processing the difficult things that were happening to me. Instead, I let little pockets of resentment or mistrust towards God fester because He was allowing these things to happen. Now, I guard my heart by bringing those questions to Him and waiting for answers. Answers don't always come immediately, and sometimes God doesn't give me answers at all, but I'm keeping my heart open to Him. The biggest way to guard my heart and stay alive rather than shut down is to stand fast in God's love for me and to love Him back. When I stand fast in the truth of God's love for me, I don't let my circumstances dictate how I think He feels about me. When I remember how much God loves me, it's easy to love Him back. That way, regardless of what's going on, I'm wholehearted towards Him. As I pay attention to what's going on inside of me, if there are any areas where I'm not trusting His love, I ask Him to heal and restore my heart. Because I'm prone to forget how God feels about me. I do this daily. If I'm going to utilize my heart, which another translation of Proverbs 4:23 calls the wellspring of my life, I have to take it seriously. I have to value it. I have to work at it. Easier said than done, right? Well, let's get practical for a minute. First, let's take a heart assessment. You do this for your physical heart already. You check it out, you make sure it's healthy. So how do you know if the heart that Solomon is talking about is healthy? He said everything else flows out of it. So what's flowing out of you? What words or actions are bubbling out of you naturally? Jesus said this, the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Are the words coming out of your mouth full of love or full of hate? Full of peace or full of anxiety? Are they patient and kind or demanding and demeaning? Jesus and Solomon are sharing the same truth. Both tell us whatever is in us will eventually flow out of us. So pay attention to what's coming out. Once you know how your heart is doing, there are a lot of ways to guard and to take care of it. For the sake of time, let's talk about 3. First, you need to rest. When your body and mind can't stop to rest, they run on adrenaline and anxiety. The balloon needs to let out some air or it's going to pop. Nobody thinks they have time for rest, but I'd venture to say that we don't have time not to rest. This means you have to schedule it and make time for it. If you say yes to rest, you have to say no to something else. Now, I get it. Rest isn't easy. It requires us to trust God with the time that we're not working. Second, you need to connect with people who encourage you. Find a way to get around people who are good for your heart, people who are healthy, who love well, who seek wisdom, who want what's best for you, and who listen when you talk. Solomon also reminds us that gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. For you, if this means going to see a great counselor, go for it. Going to counseling isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign that you're guarding the wellspring of your entire life. You're setting yourself up for the win. And finally, pray. I bet if you were to ask anyone who has been a Christian for a long time, that they would tell you that prayer, talking to God, and spending time with Him is good for you. I bet they would tell you how those things will improve your outlook and even make your life story feel connected to something bigger. When you spend time talking to God, verbalizing what's going on in your heart to Him, life infuses into your heart. No matter how you choose to guard your heart this week, I want to encourage you to just think about it. Take an inventory of how you're doing, like really doing, and take some steps to guard your heart because as Solomon says, everything else you do, say, and think flows from it. If you want to win in life, guard your heart. When your heart runs on empty, things tend to break down. The battery will eventually run out of power. We must learn to pay attention. The people who understand this best, the people who have learned how to walk with God in the day-to-day moments of life, they've learned to consistently keep their hearts open to God and to consistently turn towards Him with the things they're feeling, struggling with, and anxious over. They ask God to restore their hearts over and over. You and I could learn from them. Think about it. If your heart was in the right place, would that be anything but a win? It's possible. We just have to make our heart a priority.